Hello and welcome to this rendition of the Dugout podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Cruikshanks. It's a bit different today. Circumstances have arisen where we can't all record at the same time, but we felt we had to record our league predictions so you guys could hear what we had to say before the season begins tomorrow. So, let's just dive right in. It'll be me giving my predictions, and Ethan and Laurie, of course, will be making their own predictions, their own videos, and it'll be put together for you guys to watch. So, first of all, in 12th, I have Ross County. Ross County, I've had a look at their summer editions, not great. They've been hanging on for a thread for years. And unfortunately, I think they'll be finishing in 12th, going down to the Championship. I've got a wee bit of a soft spot for Ross County. It's totally like unlogical. I don't know why I like them, but I do. I feel like they're a good club with good supporters. However, I believe they will be going down this season. Moving on to 11th, I have St Johnstone. New owners. A lot of good things happening there in Perth. However, I believe the Saints will be in that relegation battle. I don't think there will be much. I don't think there will be any doubt of who 12th is. Unfortunately, for Ross County, I think pretty comfortable. There'll be a comfortable gap between them and whoever finishes 11th. I believe it could be St Johnstone. I'm kind of torn between St Johnstone and who I've got in 10th, but I'll put the Saints in there for now. And moving on to 10th, I have the newly promoted Dundee United. They have a good manager, a good squad, big club back in the Premiership, and I believe they will stay up. Although they could fall into 11th, and you never know what happens in the playoffs. However, I've got them in 10th today for my prediction. I think they have the talent to do it. They've obviously got some good players. Louis Moult back in the Premiership. Glenn Middleton wanting to show what he's all about. They've got Ryan Strain, Craig Sibbald, proven quality in that squad, and I believe they will be in the 10th position. Now, this is where it gets tricky for me because I don't think there's much separation between the rest of the division. Ninth, I'm gonna go for Dundee. Dundee, um, sixth last year, I believe. I'll just double check that. Yep, sixth. They're a good. They had a really good season last season, but I just don't think they'll be able to keep up what they did, and I believe they'll fall into the bottom half um, of the table for this upcoming season. It won't be too drastic. Like I said, I think it will be very close, but I don't think they'll make the top six this year, unfortunately for them. And Dundee ninth. Eighth, I will have. It's tough. I've actually got Motherwell. Motherwell, they're one of those funny clubs, you know. I feel like they're either on the verge of top six or they're fighting relegation. I don't know why. I don't know why I have that feeling. Maybe I'm making that up in my head, but I just that's the feeling I get from them. But eighth, I think it will be. They could finish above or below. Like I said, it's very tight in that area of the table. But yeah, Motherwell in eighth. In seventh, oh, seventh, I'm torn again. We're gonna go with Hibs. Hibs in seventh. Um, they started well in the Premier Sports Cup, a lot of goals, but then they actually lost. um, to Kelty Hearts, which was a bit of a strange one. But yeah, they scored a lot of goals in that. Um, 14 for them, only conceding two. One of them was in a defeat to Kelty, but I believe that must have been a blip. And yeah, but I think they will finish just outside the top six. Sixth, I have St Mirren, just absolutely pummeled their opponents in the Conference League qualifiers. Really good performance. I watched the game. They looked really comfortable. I think that the level of opposition in the SPFL is better, but they strove it, and yeah, they look really good. All Sanya's looking sharp. They've got some good additions like Sean Rooney. He's always a solid player to have. So that's why I've got St Mirren making that top six spot. Fifth, I have oh, now I said Aberdeen there. They're not my fifth. I have Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock to finish fifth this season. They've made some good additions to their squad. Derek McInnes is, my opinion, one of the best managers in the league, and I think they will have what it takes. Bruce Anderson's a good addition. He always manages to grab goals wherever he goes. Robbie McCrory, a good goalkeeper to for the foundation of their team. Um, and they've obviously got players like Kyle Vassell, Marley Watkins, who proved their quality players. How can I forget Danny Armstrong? Really good player. Um, Being linked with a few places. If they hold on to him, he will be crucial for them, and they maybe could even go up a step. But yeah, I've got Kilmarnock in fifth and fourth. I have Aberdeen. The Dons not haven't been performing as well as they would like of recent years. However, with their new manager in and their squad looking good. Dimitar Mitov in there, great goalie from St Johnstone last season. Sorry, I don't know why I'm a bit jumpy today, but yeah, Dimitar Mitov in there, a good addition for them, and it's building on what you look at their squad and you think, how have they not managed to do as well as they have? Obviously, they've lost, do as well as they should have. Obviously, they've lost Connor Barron um, to Rangers, but yeah, I think they'll have enough to finish in fourth. Third is Hearts. Um, yeah, I think they'll pick up where they left off. They've strengthened with the likes of Blair Spittle and Jan Danda, snapping up all the great talent from outside of sort of the bigger clubs in Scotland, and I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with this season. And then on to the main ones, the top two, the big two. It always has to be one of them. I'm gonna go with second place, Celtic. Um, yeah, I think Celtic will finish in second this season. I think the vulnerability they showed last season could show again, and I don't think Rangers will be as susceptible as they have been. Philip Clement's a great manager, in my opinion. He's just signed his contract extension until 2028. Rangers have had a good window so far with bringing in the likes of Robin Proper, a experienced centre half from the Eredivisie, Vaclav Cherny, who a really good experienced winger, 26 years old. He's played in the Bundesliga, he's played in the Eredivisie as well. And a lot of they've signed a lot of unproven young talent, but I think they will go on to win the league this season. I think a few more additions are needed. Celtic, good goalkeeper signings, Kasper Schmeichel in there. However, they still need to work on their squad as well. These early games without the complete squad could be crucial. Like if you lose early on, it's a step back. It's giving you the other opponent the advantage. But yeah, I've got Celtic in second and Rangers to win the SPFL for the 2024-25 season. However, I think it could go either way, as it could every season. It's always a two-horse race in Scotland, which isn't great for the attraction of the league. But it's all. But I think it could and will go down to the wire. Um, but yeah, I think the transfer window is important. Both clubs still need to bring in pieces, and whoever comes out that window with the best looking squad will win the league. But right now, I believe Rangers will win it and Celtic will finish in second. That's been my predictions. I'm going to pass you on to one of my colleagues for their 2024-25 SPFL predictions.
Hello, the Dugout podcast. As you can see, I'm not quite in Scotland today, so that's why I'm not fully part of the episode with Mr. Alex Cruikshanks leading the way. But I'm here to give my Scottish Premiership League predictions just before the season begins. I'm going to be doing it from 12th to first place, giving you a bit about why I think that team will place in that area. First of all, in 12th and rock bottom, possibly a hot take, but I do think Motherwell are the weakest team going into this new season. I think with the loss of some key players, Theo Bayer obviously, got a good fee for him, Liam Kelly of course away to Rangers on a free, Blair Spittle as well, and I think it'll be depending on how well the players that they've signed with that Theo Bayer money do. But I think if I had to look at the squads at the moment and how much each team's lost from last season, I would say Motherwell look the worst, and I think they'll go down in last. Coming into the relegation playoff spot, I think it'll be Ross County again. Without Jan Dander, the integral kind of playmaker from last season, and of course without the goals of Simon Murray, as he's obviously went to Dundee. I think they'll just not do any better than last season, but I think they do look a little bit better than Motherwell going into the opening day. 10th place, same again as last season. St Johnstone, I think they've lost some of their key players. Mitov, obviously their player of the season being the most key of those, and I think they will do enough to stay up, but it will be any better than last season. I can't see it being any better than last season. Then moving into some of the safer teams, I think in 9th it'll be, I know they've just been promoted, but I think Dundee United, I think they have more than enough in the tank to see this season through. I think they've got some good Premiership experience in their ranks throughout their team, and I think they'll have enough to stay clear of the drop on their first season. And a place above them, slight drop from last season, I think it'll be the rivals across the road, Dundee. I know they've signed Simon Murray, but I think their teams have just be stronger this season. I think they'll be pushed out, and I think they'll finish 8th. And then the last team making up the bottom 6, I think, will be St Mirren. I think they'll have a drop off from last season like Dundee. I think some of the bigger clubs in Scotland will get their act together, mainly looking at Aberdeen and Hibs, and I think like Dundee, St Mirren will be pushed out. You know, they obviously pulled off that impressive 4-1 win over Valor to make it to the third round of the Conference League qualifying, but I don't think they'll have enough to kind of retain their top 6. And I just think that's how their campaign will go. moving into the top 6 now, you'll probably see a familiar pattern with some of these teams. Kilmarnock, I think, are going to drop down to 6th. I think they'll still have enough in the tank to get top 6. Could maybe say they've rested on their laurels a little bit with some of their signings, but I think they've done enough just to keep in those top 6 places. The re-signing of Corey and Daba is a brilliant signing for them. And goals, replacing Will Dennis with Robbie McCrory, and that looks to be another good signing after his penalty heroics last night, despite Kilmarnock unfortunately dropping out of the Europa League qualifying and into the Conference League qualifying. But yeah, I think Kilmarnock will have enough for top 6, but not as good as last season. And moving into 5th, I'm going to go for Hibs. I think they'll do a lot better than they did last season, and I think they just look more of a team now. They've obviously got that connection with Bournemouth, where they can sign some of their players, and that's looked to have helped them earlier in the season. I know they obviously had that surprise loss to Celtic Hearts in the Premier Sports Cup, but apart from that, they've looked very solid, and I think I can see them doing better this season and pushing for those European spots. Moving into 4th, I think it will be Hearts. I know they've signed 2 of the league's best players, in Blair Spittle and Jan Dander, but I just think I really like how Aberdeen look at the moment, and I think Aberdeen will pit them to 3rd this season. And yeah, hopefully Hearts can qualify for Europe this season again, to boost that coefficient up. But yeah, I think Aberdeen will just pit them. And moving on to Aberdeen, I think they look really solid under the new manager. They made some really top signings, and I think they'll be back to where they kind of belong after a few seasons, with lower finishes than what they got previously used to, and I think they'll have enough. And moving on to the top 2, the big one. If you've watched the podcast, you probably know where I'm going to go with this answer. And I think this season, I think Rangers will finish 2nd and Celtic will retain the title. I think, it's only pre-season, but I think everything probably points to it going that way. I know pre-season doesn't mean everything, but Rangers' rebuild hasn't went too well so far, and I think they'll start the season quite slowly. I think they will pull it together by the end of it, and they'll close down the gap. I think Celtic will start guns blazing this season, and I think it'll be difficult for Rangers to claw back any sort of gap that's made. But I do think later in the season Celtic will they'll struggle. They've not, to be honest, improved the squad. Replaced Joe Hart with the 2 goalkeepers. Re-signed Paulo Bernardo from his loan deal, but apart from that, one outfield signing, it's a bit not very optimistic, as Celtic fans have probably grown used to. But I think just off of what Rangers have done in the transfer window, and a lot of the players being good for the future, but a bit of risk, I can see Celtic retaining the title by not much, but I think 5 to 10 points. I think I can probably see Celtic retaining it by. I think on the Rangers side of it, any talk of the worst Rangers team they've ever seen, and Celtic and Rangers fans both saying that, is quite ludicrous. And I think Rangers will get 2nd. I don't think any shout of below that is ludicrous. I think they'll run Celtic most of the way, but I think Celtic will just pit them again. And that's my predictions for the season. Yeah, so I'll probably hand you back to Alex. And thank you for listening, and thank you for watching the Dugout podcast again. See yous. Bye. Bye.
Hey everyone, Laurie here from the Dugout podcast, and just like Alex and Ethan, I'm going to give you my prediction for the Scottish Premiership, with the league getting back underway tomorrow, starting from the bottom, of course. So I think going down this season at the foot of the table will be St Johnstone, and it's maybe a bit tough to say that, especially with the new ownership that has been in place over the summer. I just think St Johnstone just don't have the quality to stay in the division, although they have done really well to have spent well over a decade now, probably closer to 15 years in the top flight, but it's just potentially going to be a bridge too far. However, I think relegation is going to be quite tight this year. It's not like last year where Livingston were going down from probably about Christmas time. It's not going to be like that this year, I don't think. In the relegation playoff spot, I've put Ross County, although saying that, Don Cowie has done a pretty decent job with the Staggies so far, but I think they will go into a third successive relegation playoff. Whether they get out of it, who knows? In 10th place, so staying up, will be the newly promoted Dundee United. You could argue I've been a wee bit conservative with my prediction for them, but Dundee United are always a tough team to predict. Sometimes they're a side who are in the top six and chasing Europe, other times they're just in mid-table mediocrity, and sometimes they're embroiled in relegation battles, as we've seen in 2016, and of course more recently in 2023 where they went down, but hopefully Jim Goodwin can keep them up and steady the ship at Tannadice. In ninth place, we've got Motherwell, who, again, are a tough side to predict. On their day, Motherwell are excellent and Stuart Kettlewell has done a very good job. But sometimes, as we've seen in the League Cup, they can stutter and have had to use penalties to get over the line in some cases in there. And obviously, having lost Theo Bear in the summer, will they manage to replace the Canadian international goals? It really does remain to be seen. In eighth place, we've got Tony Docherty's Dundee. Dundee, of course, came up last season and was a surprise package, you could say. But I think this year they will fall away and slide down to eighth place, not being able to build on last year's top six finish. Albeit, I think Dark Blues fans will be happy enough finishing eighth this season. In seventh place, just missing out in the top six. This is where it gets difficult. I've got St Mirren, who of course are now in European football for the first time in 37 years, having just overcame Valur in the Conference League qualifiers. But I mean, three top six finishes in a row for the Buddies. I don't think that's quite going to be possible, which is a shame for them, but seventh place isn't too bad, and we'll see how they get on in Conference League qualifying. Speaking of Conference League qualifying, next up in sixth place, starting off top six, we've got Kilmarnock, who of course are my team, as you're probably able to just about work out in the background of this shot. Yeah, so Kelly, I've got this finishing in sixth place. Of course, last year Kilmarnock finished fourth and did really well under Derek McInnes, of course. And Kilmarnock have just been knocked out of Europa League qualifying, having narrowly lost to Belgian side Cercle Bruges. However, Derek McInnes' side still have the Conference League to fall back on, with a tie coming up against Tromsø of Norway. But I think Europe will be too much of a distraction for Kelly, and I kind of hope that maybe we don't qualify for Europe, but make money from it, of course. Or we could end up doing an Aberdeen. That is very much my fear. But sixth place, I'd be happy enough with our top six finish for Kelly this season. Moving on into the top five now, of course. In fifth place, I've got Hibs. And this is a tough one because Hibs are difficult to call, having had an inconsistent League Cup, getting some convincing wins and then losing to Celtic Hearts. And of course, David Gray, or Sir David Gray, as the High Bees call him, he's an unproven manager, but they've got a good side, Hibs, and they've got to do better than they did last year. And speaking of doing better than last year, in fourth place, I've got Aberdeen. I mean, Aberdeen had a terrible season last year, under Barry Robson, Neil Warnock, Peter Leven, you name it. It's been pretty dismal for Aberdeen last year, but I think this season's going to be different. I mean, Jimmy Tulane has started really well in the League Cup, and the guy seems to mean business. I think Aberdeen are now getting back closer to where they rightfully belong, putting them in fourth place and getting themselves back into European football. And in third, I've got Hearts retaining what feels like their rightful position. This time last year, people were doubting Stephen Naismith as a manager, but now, with a year of managerial experience under his belt, Hearts will be as strong as ever, or perhaps even stronger. I think they've got European group stage football, so it will be interesting to see how they cope with that. But I would say Hearts are quite comfortably the best team out with the big two. And speaking of the big two, what order did I put them in? Of course, it's maybe difficult to say because neither side have had a particularly strong summer, with Rangers having a bit of a rebuild go wrong, both on and off the pitch, and Celtic seem to be struggling to bring names in, including two returning players from last season, in Paulo Bernardo and Adam Ida. Of course, they do have experienced goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel over the line. And speaking of over the line, the team who I think are going to get it over the line is Celtic. Rangers will probably run them close because, like last year, I don't think either Celtic or Rangers, by their own standards, are all that great. But I think Celtic will manage to have enough quality to pit Rangers to the post. And most of that for me has been fueled by Rangers challenging pre-season and losing losing to the likes of Preston, I think it was, in pre-season, and struggling to pick up results. Although Rangers fans may or may not be pleased by the fact that James Tavernier looks to be staying put, but then also Todd Cantwell seems to be on his way out of Ibrox. So I think it could be a difficult season for Rangers, and I think Brendan Rodgers Celtic is who is going to win the league. I'm pretty sure these predictions will be awful. I'm sure the other lads will have done way better.